Here we are in Cubase, which is my digital audio workstation. And the first thing I'm going to do is import the original track so that I can deconstruct it and just drag that into my project. Now, of course, this original contains vocals. Now, for me to be able to work out what all the notes are and what's going on in the background, I need to strip out the vocals. And Cubase has a tool in it for doing that, and it's called Spectral Layers. So with that track selected, we come down to here where it says Extensions and make sure that we've got Spectral Layers loaded up. And you can see actually I've already got it loaded here. So once we're in Spectral Layers, we can click Layer and then click Unmix Vocals. And that will do the magic for us. Just let it get to work. Okay, once that's done, you should be able to see we've got two layers now. I'll just remove my head out of the way. You can see we've got the vocals and the rest of the instruments. So I'm just going to click that and drag it into my project. So now I don't need the original, so I'm going to delete that. And we should be left with an instrumental. Now, Spectral Layers doesn't do a perfect job of stripping out the vocals. Nothing really does. But we'll just have a listen to see how good of a job it's done. Not bad. Okay, next we need to work out the time signature, the beats per minute, and the key signature. You should be able to see at the bottom of Cubase's screen here, we've got the beats per minute, which is currently set to 120, and a time signature of 4/4. So we'll set the time signature first. All we simply do with that is play the track and then just count. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're in simple 4/4 time. For that, I'm just going to come down here and make sure that the time signature is set to 4/4, which it is. So the next thing we need to do is set the beats per minute. And Cubase has a tool to help us with that. So what I'm going to do is under the project menu is come down here and select beat calculator. And what that's going to let us do is tap along to the song on the space bar or the mouse, and it will then calculate how many beats per minute that equates to. So let's give that a shout. So you can see there it reckons that the BPM is around 169.5 beats per minute. And we can actually just use this option here to add tempo at track start, or we can add it in manually. Well, I'm going to add it in manually. So we'll just close that window, come down to the BPM field here and change that to 169.5. Now we need to work out what key it's in. So I simply play a few seconds of the song and then I try to recreate it on the piano. Let's just hop over to the piano and we'll play just this short section. So from that, it sounds like it's starting on an F sharp. I'll just show you the piano keyboard. So to me, that looks like it's in A major. So it's playing C sharp, F sharp and G sharp because the key of A major has 3 sharp notes in it. So again, just go back to the piano. If you aren't aware of what key a particular song is in, you're going to be dancing all over the shop trying to work out what's going on. Whereas if you know what key it's in and you know how to play in that key, then things just move a lot faster and it becomes more intuitive. Okay, now looking back into Cubase, we need to start building the component parts of that song from the ground up. And there's no shortcut here. You've basically got to listen to everything. Some of those parts will become fairly obvious on a casual listen and you'll be able to hear them really easily. But there'll be others that are quite buried and you'll need to listen more surgically. And I use 3 techniques in Cubase to help me do that. The first one is to apply an equalizer. All I'm going to do is just pick one of these filter bands. I'm going to pick number 2, take the gain control and boost it up. I'm going to increase the Q control because as we do that, the bands of frequencies that get boosted or cut get narrower. So I'm going to leave that to 4 or 5. That'll do. We can start using the frequency control to home in on specific parts of the mix. So So you can hear the bass fairly easily there and the drums. And as we increase it, you can start to hear the pads and the harmony. There we go. Some of the higher synth sounds. Start to hear the guitars. And as we get right up here, you'll start to hear some of the higher percussion instruments like the hi-hats. So EQing the track is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, which is equally important, is to isolate one ear from the other, because very often you can be distracted by what's going on in your right ear when really you need to be focusing on what's going on in the left ear. So dead simple for that. I will just lift one ear off and just listen on the left side, and then vice versa. It's not rocket science. Sometimes I'll come across a particular passage that I just can't figure out. And that can often be in passages that are played quite quickly. And I want to give you one fairly simple example on this particular track here. So if I just play this section. So what on earth is that doing? And simplest way to figure it out is to slow it down. So again, I'll switch over to Cubase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the track, split it at the end of that passage, and just delete what's afterwards temporarily. Now, normally, when you use the selection control and you resize something, it just stretches out what was previously there. So you can see it's just stretching out what I previously took away. But if we change this control from normal sizing to sizing applies time stretch, when we stretch this section out now, it will play it more slowly. So now let's see if we can figure out what's going on. And it becomes much clearer. But using those three techniques, so EQ, isolating each left and right ear, and time stretching, we can pretty much figure out what's going on. Now, of course, what I've just shown you there is just the very beginning part of the process. So once I've figured out how to play each individual part, then the next stage is to start recreating the synth sounds. Of course, all of that is far too much to include in one video. So if you'd like to learn more about that, then please do consider subscribing. Also, if you'd like to hear my final complete version of a-ha's Take on Me, then I'll put a link to that here somewhere. That's the end of this video, so thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.